Few firearms have a lasting impact on history, and for those that do, their place is immortalized in the lands where they were used. In a windswept valley, two snipers face off. The outcome uncertain.
Oh, bloody hell, he's got me zero! Hide and seeky tea drinking, bitch. Serpentine! Nice mirror, pussy. He's good. He's very good.
Modern problems require modern solutions. Let's do this, old pal.
Checkmate, bitch.
Oh no, that does like, oh hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today on Grantham, we're gonna be talking about a very interesting rifle. Right here, we have probably one of the most iconic sniper rifles ever designed or utilized throughout history. We have the PSG-1. Do you know what that stands for?
Not at all.
It's like a police sharpshooter's rifle. This rifle in every way was considered and might still be one of the most accurate semi-automatic sniper rifles currently made, and certainly was at the time it was made in the 80s. So today on Grantham, we're gonna be testing it, we're gonna be shooting it, we're gonna be shooting it extremely far. Charles, you have a lot of knowledge on this as well?
Yeah, I'm the world's foremost expert at this range after you and after Mr. Subject Security, after the new ranch hand.
But before we get into it, we have to thank the biggest sponsor of the channel, who is whom?
It's Shooting Diddlers Institute. It's a great place where you can just drop these people.
We have the Sonoran Desert Institute. If you're looking to get your start in gunsmithing, we cannot recommend them enough. Again, the Sonoran Desert Institute. Learn gunsmithing, have a good time. They support the channel. They keep the content
Going.
free. Yeah, going free. So we love them. Go and check them out. And of course, who can we not forget? Charles.
Oh, Mantis, if you've ever wanted to put your EDC out the window and act like you're responsible for 50% of the violent crime, this allows you to do it safely.
So Mantis will turn your weapon into a dry fire machine, which will make you a better shooter. We love them. Of course, Primary Arms Optics does sponsor this channel as well. This is not a Primary Arms Optic. Unfortunately, this is kind of a proprietary one, so we can't do much with it. But whatever you might need, Primary Arms has. Go and check them out. You have to give a big shout out to Michael's Machines and Illumin Arms. They brought these kits in. They allowed us to review this rifle. Again, they brought these kits in. They allowed us to review this rifle. So if you're trying to find a PSG-1, probably maybe take a look at Michael's Machines. So a big thank you to them for allowing us to do this. Absolutely rock. This is a very, very expensive rifle, and being able to put it through its paces like this has been absolutely awesome. Now, we should give a prayer for Micah. He's, yeah.
He has AIDS.
Doesn't have AIDS. He's really sick, so he's actually having to take a break while he gets better. Everyone pray for him. So we do have guest video and guest editor Walter Subject Security here with us, my dear friend. So give it up for him, and don't be too mean to him. And say something mean to Micah. We should say in the comments, get in there and say, rest in pepperoni, cameraman.
Just everyone, back when Micah had that F-boy haircut, just send him pictures of those.
Yeah, good. Find the worst picture you can find of Micah and submit that.
Yeah, it'll make him feel better.
In fact, if you can use AI, that's the way to. Okay, let's get started. So right here we have the PSG-1, and next to it we have an HK G3. We did this to illustrate the differences between the two. The HK G3 is a battle rifle, and it's wonderful. However, the PSG-1 was tailor-made to be a sniper rifle, not a designated marksman's rifle. This is meant to be as precise as possible. This came about because of several terroristic attacks in the 70s, for which the German police force was not ready. And you had the PSG developed, which is primarily for police work. Now the PSG, although it does have the same roller delayed operation as the G3, does have some stark differences in the bolt, rollers, and some other things that we'll talk about. But to start off with, you can clearly see that you have you versus the guy she told you not to worry about right here. We have a free-floated bull barrel, free-floated bull barrel, 25 inches versus our typical 17.7 that we have on the G3 right here. We have no type of muzzle device, although that was changed in later models, and we have no front sight post, no rear sight post, because why?
The irons weren't invented yet.
So first thing we're gonna do right here is we're gonna go ahead and group this rifle. Now, at the time that it was designed, you have to realize that the PSG-1 was said to be the most accurate semi-automatic rifle ever made. I think that actually might be true, because when I grouped this, it grouped extremely tight. We're gonna be using Federal gold medal match for this particular test, and we'll be testing it against the current rifle that is in use, which is the Seekins SP-10M in 308, which is a superbly accurate rifle. The question is, can the PSG stand up with a 6-power optic? First up, we have the PSG-1 firing Federal gold medal match. Next up, we have the Seekins SP-10M 308. So I would say we probably have the best group we've been able to print with the PSG-1. And this is pretty standard from what I've seen, which is about 0.8, 0.7, somewhere right around there, which is a superb group from a semi-auto rifle. It's just, given the optic, it's tough to get it much tighter than that, I think personally. With a better optic, I think possibly it'd be easier to eke out more accuracy from it. Let's go and let's compare that to our Seekins right here. We'll measure that. Just 0.4. The Seekins is, of course, a more modern weapon, so it makes sense that it's going to be printing better, but you really do have to give it to the PSG-1, which I think with a much better optic, I think that the PSG-1, the accuracy potential is much higher, because printing 0.8 out of a 6-power fixed optic is kind of insane.
Left.
Want me to switch to right target?
That's fine. Impact. That's nice. Short a target. Right at 3 o'clock. Just on the plate. Impact.
Woo! We just finished shooting at 8:30. The gun is hot. So at 830 yards, the problem is not the accuracy of the weapon. It's fairly consistent. The problem is the Hensoldt optic. When the PSG-1 was developed, you have to realize that it was a police-specific weapon. They weren't planning on shooting in the Idaho backcountry at 830 yards. So the optic itself is a simple crosshair, and we have some video of it right here. But the problem that comes into play, even though you can only dial to 600, so anything beyond that, there's not really a reference for making corrections. So typically you have some type of hash marks or something in mils or BDC that's going to allow you to make instant corrections on the fly. Be like, okay, I need to hold 2 hash marks up or something along those lines. You have nothing. You have a straight crosshair. This is enemy at the gates, scope cam right now, and it's a tough time. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna move it out to 1,000. The problem's not the gun, it's 100% the shooter and just not enough optic, but we're gonna give it the old college try, let her cool down and see how she does. Right here, we're shooting at 1,000. This is coming to the edge of 308 and its capability for precision work. 168 grain sear Match King and 6-power optic. Here we go. High.
Okay, did you see that?
Yeah.
You were 5 targets high and 1 to the left.
So I need to come back right too.
Holy shit, you were just under it
Perfect.
at like the 630. Just high.
Is that on low right?
No, you hit it.
Oh, I did? So 1,000 yards with the PSG-1, doable with a better optic. Not that the optic is bad, it's just not what it's for. So a PSG-1 A1 with the allowing yourself to mount a different optic, I think it's very doable. You have to understand that at 1,000, we're at the kind of the edge of the envelope of most loaded ammunition for 308 in a semi-automatic gas gun, as far as its ability to retain precision. So combine that with a 6-power optic, no bubble level. I feel like I'm complaining for no reason. The point is, it's a very difficult shot given the setup that we have right here. I believe that the rifle, accuracy-wise, is capable of it, but you're gonna have to really have everything kind of line up to make sure that you're making these shots at this distance. But this wasn't what the PSG-1 was designed for. That being said, it's really fun to see what the rifle is capable of, which is superb precision. So with all that being said, let's continue.
So
Cool.
it being a German rifle, it's not very ergonomic. Everything's backwards, but I do wish I would have had one of these back in Munich in '78. So that way, as I'm eating dinner, watching what's happening, I could also point it out the window for no reason besides just the fact that I think I'd like to scare my neighbors. But as you can see, I don't know, were German men just bigger back then? I know they used to step over Poland.
West German men, yeah.
West German men?
Yeah.
Well, East German men were commies at that time. And
Yeah.
Those aren't men, those are just...
Well, they just don't have any food.
Oh, I don't think it was food. I think it's just the natural intake of estrogen that they get. I don't know. Whatever.
So let's talk a little bit about this, guys. We actually have both the PSG-1 and a G3 here, so you can take kind of a direct look at the difference between these two guys. So you can see there are differences in the receivers, differences in the optics mounting, differences obviously in the front and the barrels. Let's go through all of this on the PSG-1 and talk about what makes it so accurate. Because a lot of people tend to think of the PSG-1 as a G3 with an optic. It's not true. The G3 is a great battle rifle, but the G3 is not a superbly accurate weapon. It's around a 2 to 3 MOA at best rifle. The PSG, as you can see, apparently is a 0.5 or less MOA, in our experience closer to 0.7 to 0.8, which is superb for when it was released. So starting here at the barrel, we do have a 25-inch barrel. This is a lot of velocity for 308. We're making sure that we're getting full burn, the minimum amount of flash, and this is going to be important in an urban environment. You have to realize that there are several different variations of the PSG. The PSG was primarily made for police work. So you're looking at pretty short range shots overall, anything from 300 and in. Now, you of course do have a PSG A1 that had a Picatinny rail to mount a better optic, and you do have military versions called the MSG1. And those were lightened and a little bit different because the PSG1 is a heavy rifle. But the first thing we need to look at is with this barrel, you notice that we do have a bull barrel. This is both going to decrease the amount of barrel whip, it's going to increase the accuracy, it's going to increase the amount of heat that the weapon can take before it begins to affect accuracy. And indeed, from firing it, we've shot this thing pretty hard. It tended to hold its accuracy pretty dang well. A lot of weapons as they heat up, especially the barrel, will have a tendency to start vertical stringing or doing weird things because the heat is going to cause the barrel to just settle in a weird way. So the PSG-1 does a really good job of resisting that. And what's really important about it is that overall I found that the PSG-1, its point of aim, point of impact, seems to shift very little over long strings of fire. Have you noticed that as well, Foster?
Definitely.
It's been pretty incredible to see. I think my favorite thing about the PSG one is this one came straight out of Germany, straight to my place, and I took it out to the ranch. And the first time I shot it, you know, I'd heard so many stories about how accurate this weapon was. And the first time I pulled the trigger, the first round went straight through the bullseye, just dead center. I was like, okay, cool. And it did end up printing pretty good. I can't say enough good things about the Cold Hammer Forged barrel. It is polygonal, it's rifling. Somebody correct me out there, I don't know how to talk right. But the point being is that the barrel is superb. Now, it's a little bit older in the fact that if we come up and take a look at it, there's no threading, there's no muzzle device. You can see it is just a straight crown right there. It's not recessed or anything. Obviously this was changed in later designs, but you have to realize that the PSG in many ways was pioneering a lot of these concepts of a semi-automatic sniper rifle. Now from there we can see that starkly contrasted with the G3 that we have right here, we have no front sight post because we don't need one. From there we have our gas tube, and just like a normal G3, the manual of arms, everything is just about the same. There are a couple changes right here. So we'll take a look at this charging handle first. Just like your normal G3, we do have a charging handle that folds out of the way. Now, compared to the G3, the thing about the PSG one is you'll notice how smooth it is when we pull the charging handle to the rear. Now, this one's a little bit dirty right now. We've been shooting a bunch, but it's incredibly smooth. You can feel the amount of extra engineering that went into this particular rifle. Now, as far as manual of arms is concerned, contrary to popular belief on the G3, on the HK91, you do not need to lock the charging handle to the rear in order to load the weapon. In fact, on the PSG-1, all you have to do is insert a new mag and then simply charge the weapon, as a quick note. Now, moving back from here, we do have this triangular handguard, pretty standard. You'll notice that for the sling mounting right here, it's actually pretty interesting. So we have these little brackets that it mounts into, and it gives you different positions. So for this little sling mount right here, we have this little nut right here, little screw. Once I get it in there, I can put tension on that to put my sling where I want it. Now, in addition to that, there are multiple adapters to use bipods, to use different types of mounts and everything. So it's a very simple system. Obviously today, different things are standardized like ARCA rail and stuff, but in the 80s, they didn't have that. So this was a good solution and it works quite well. Moving back from there, we do use standard G3 mags. Nothing crazy there. Now the kit that it came with comes with a couple 20 round magazines, a couple 5 round magazines. Personally, on a semi-automatic rifle, I want as many rounds as possible, so the 20 rounders are the way to go. Now, on the PSGs that we have right here, we don't have a paddle magazine release like you typically see on a G3. Now, of course, the HK91 right here also is imported without a paddle magazine release, but that was pretty typical. So on this one, you have to use your giant Teutonic fingers, reach up, hit that magazine release in order to get it. And I think Charles said it best, is that when it comes to the PSG-1, everything's just a little bit out of reach. The charging handle is a little bit far forward, the magazine release is a little bit far forward. You know, maybe the West Germans were just giant Teutonic gods, I don't know. But it's a little bit awkward to kind of get the hang of the kind of manual of arms, especially firing from the prone and stuff. It's not completely optimized, but it does work well. Now, if you move back, obviously on the G3 and on the PSG-1, depending on the bolt, sometimes you'll have a little scallop right here. We do have a Greek EBO bolt on this guy right here. We are missing it, but that can be used to assist the bolt forward. In addition to that, compared to the G3, you notice that we do have what they call a silent closing bolt device, which is basically a forward assist. So Eugene Stoner is rolling in his grave right now. The idea behind that was that they could close the bolt silently. How big of a deal is this? Probably not that big of a deal, but it sounds good in practice, and you know, maybe a little bit unnecessary, but we have it, it's there. So it basically works by hitting these little ratcheting notches right here and making sure that that bolt is all the way seated. Because of the way the rollers work on the HK, when you seat that guy all the way, it has a tendency to click into place, and we'll talk more about those rollers in just a moment here. Now, moving down to the grip right here, there's a lot going on here. But what we have, the reason for this is the idea being that when you're proned out against the ground, you can put your palm under it and you can adjust the height of that to get a really good prone shooting position, in addition to using the tripod or the bipod that came with the PSG-1. It works pretty well. In practice now, as kind of a more modern shooter, I tend to bag it or kind of scoop it underneath the stock, but I think this is good, and you'll see that a lot of precision rifles now use a very similar concept on their grips and on their stocks. We'll talk more about that. One thing we have to talk about is trigger. The trigger is very nice. Now, the trigger is actually quite different from the G3. There's springs to assist to make sure you don't have light primer strikes and all of that goodness, and the trigger on it ends up being super, super light. So we'll go ahead and we'll ghost that trigger together, guys. So we have the trigger right there, nice wide pad, makes it feel like it's nothing. We have maybe a 3-pound let off. If I feel it from the reset's light right there. From the reset, maybe 2 pounds. It is a superb trigger. And indeed, I haven't noticed any problems from shooting it. As far as accuracy is concerned, when it comes to the trigger, I think the trigger is quite good on the PSG-1. Moving from there, safety is just on one side. You can buy a dual safety easily and throw it on there. HK rifles are very adaptable, but you have what you have. Moving back, I think this is probably the most interesting thing about the PSG. In many ways, the PSG-1 is kind of a legacy weapon. It's not. It saw a lot of service, yes, and there was some good about it and there's some bad about it, but a lot of things carry forward, from the grip to many other things. But the buttstock right here, you might be familiar with, because almost every buttstock in the precision world follows kind of a similar vein, with an adjustable cheek riser, a adjustable comb, adjustable length of pull and everything. It was very innovative for the time, so although you might look at it now and be like, that doesn't look like much, it was a big deal back in the day. And they did a great job with the stock, and you see from Magpul to LMT to everyone emulating this design in so many ways. Now, moving up to the optic right here, I think the optic is very interesting, because when we think of optics, we think of, buying different optics. But when it came to their solutions that they were looking at in the 80s and the late 70s, the idea was to just have something that came from the factory that was as stable as possible. No claw mounts, no nothing. The mount is actually welded directly onto the receiver. In addition to that, the scope then screws right into place. It's extremely, extremely durable. It's not moving. It's a tough optic. It's a fixed optic at 6 power. It has good eye relief, good field of view. However, you have what you have, and you don't have anything else. This has obviously changed in later models that added Picatinny and the ability to swap the optic, but back in the day, you had this. Now, we have to talk about how the optic is good. We have a rubber eyepiece right here that kind of gives you your eye relief, but 6 power, and especially the reticle, leaves a lot to be desired. The reticle is a straight crosshair. There's no reference. This probably didn't end up being that big of a deal for police shootings where they had to make kind of more shorter range shots. But, in the modern world, where we're trying to shoot a little bit further, it's been a little bit more difficult. So on this optic, you actually have a dial. So you can dial anywhere from 100 meters all the way up to 600. In practice, I found it to be pretty good, because to be clear, we're not using the exact ammo that they were using back in the day. But yet, with the 168 grain CR matchkings we're using, pretty dang close. We have to say a lot about how forward-thinking the optic was, how good it is by even today's standards, but still note that there's a lot lacking today. And for the companies that are still putting out crosshair reticles, I mean, what is it, 1970? From Metal Gear Solid to the GSG-9, the PSG-1 is probably one of the most iconic sniper rifles, I think, in inventory today. It's instantly recognizable, it is cool. And it's not often that I'm impressed by a rifle, but the PSG-1 immediately impressed me when I shot it. It is antiquated by today's designs, however, it still performs. And there's a lot to be said about a rifle from the 80s, semi-auto, still performing as well as it does today. Easily beating out many modern rifles that are made with modern materials and everything. I like the PSG-1. The price tag is high. Pretty high. If you want one, it's probably more of a collector piece. This isn't something I would shoot at matches or anything, but it is a very cool piece of history. So big thank you to Michael's Machines for letting us review this. This is awesome that I got to shoot it so much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching, and We got nothing else for you guys. No final thing for you guys. We have a little bit of dad advice. The dad advice for today is get outside. Go enjoy nature. Because life's not online. No one really cares about you online. Now, I care about you. I'm telling you to go outside. So go outside.